For those just joining us, this is teaching number 13. I want to get straight into this because I got a lot of ground to cover and it's spring break, so I have some margaritas I need to drink. So here we go. Revelation chapter 18, verse 1, and here's what the text says. After this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having a great authority, and the earth was illumined by his splendor. He called out with a mighty voice, and here it is. We've been kind of waiting for this moment. Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. It has become the dwelling place of demons, a haunt of every foul spirit, a haunt of every foul bird, a haunt of every foul and hateful beast. For all the nations have fallen from the wine of the wrath of her prostitution. And the kings of the earth have engaged in sexual immorality with her. Oh, yeah, welcome to Sunday, by the way. And the merchants, oh, you know the merchants. The merchants of the earth have grown rich from the power of her luxury. Then I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, so that you do not take part in her sins, and so that you do not share in her plagues. For her sins are heaped as high as heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Render to her as she herself has rendered, and repay her double for her deeds. Mix a double dose for her in the cup she mixed." By the way, it's a reference to Jeremiah 16:18 and Isaiah 40, verse 2. Verse 7, "As she glorified herself and lived luxuriously, so give her a like measure of torment and grief. Since in her heart she says, 'I rule as a queen. I am no widow, and I will never see grief.' Therefore her plagues will come in a single day, pestilence and mourning and famine, and she will be burned with fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her." Come on. "And the kings of the earth who engaged in sexual immorality." He wants you to know sexual immorality, all right? He wants you to get that point, how the kings, by the way, it's not literal sexual immorality. I hope you've picked up that by now. This is symbolic. He's talking about getting in bed with the empire. "And the kings of the earth who engaged in sexual immorality and lived with luxury with her will weep and wail over her when they see the smoke of her burning. They will stand far off in fear of her torment and say, 'Alas, alas, the great city, Babylon, the mighty city. For in 1 hour your judgment has come.' And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn for her, since no one buys their cargo anymore. Cargo of gold, silver, jewels, and pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, and scarlet, all kinds of scented wood, all articles of ivory, all articles of costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble, cinnamon." I wish they didn't put that one in there. Cinnamon. I like cinnamon. "Spice, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, olive oil." Olive oil's too high right now, anyways. "Olive oil and toilet paper." Every time I go to the grocery store, I'm like, my God, what's happening in America? "Choice flour, wheat, cattle, sheep, horses, chariots." And I left all this in here because of these last two. Notice what it says: "slaves and human lives." So it sounds like the merchants are doing a lot of business. All right. Today, what I want to do is I want to get into this text. If you were here last week, we talked about the seven bowls. If you know anything about the book of Revelation, if you're just joining us, there are seven seals, there are seven trumpets, and there are seven bowls. It's a series of teachings that John does right in the heart of the book of Revelation. It is, by and large, why most people don't like the book of Revelation, because it's a lot of what I just read. There's a lot of violence, there's a lot of bloodshed, there is a lot of judgment. And so we have walked through the seven seals, we've walked through the seven trumpets, and we've walked through the seven bowls. But what happens at the end of the seven bowls is exactly what I just read to you. Most of you are familiar that John would do something so surprising. He would go through the list of six trumpets, or he would go through the list of six seals, and then just when you think the end is there, he'd pull the carpet out from underneath you, and he'd show you something that you didn't see coming. So, for an example, um, the idea was that in the seven seals, Jesus was going to come, and he was coming on a white horse, and he was coming to destroy the world, right? Judge it and destroy it. But what happens is John pulls the rug out after the sixth seal, and what you see is not Jesus coming back on a white horse. You see a slain lamb. So it's upside down. He's trying to flip the empire on its head, going, that isn't how we operate, all right? You get over to the seven trumpets, and you get to the sixth trumpet, and surprise, what you see is not the end or destruction, but you see this image of a temple, and you see this image of two witnesses. And it's like John is trying to show us the resilience of evil, but he's also trying to show us that goodness is never left on its own, that there are more people than you realize out there doing the good work. You are not alone. This is what he's saying to the people in the first century, okay? Living under an oppressive Roman Empire. Then you get to this third list of sevens, and it's the seven bowls. And bowls, by the way, were used in the incense that they provided to the emperor. So I love the idea that John is saying that they would turn over these bowls. It's almost as if you remember when Jesus walked into the temple and he turned over the tables. Imagine that's what John is saying, that he's walking into this temple that we know sat at the top of this mountain in Ephesus, where they offered incense and worship because imperial worship was a thing, emperor worship was a thing. And it's as if John is saying that what he gives us an image of is he's turning over these bowls, almost like Jesus turning over the tables inside of this temple that's offered to Emperor Domitian. And he's flipping everything over, going, this is utter idolatry. Stop worshiping the authoritarian leader. And he flips everything over, right? Like that's the image we're getting. Now, you run to the end and you think this is it. Like this is it. But then there's an interlude. He has the seventh bowl. So he does do the seven, but then it kind of pauses and there's this interlude. And the interlude is what I just read. So I want to read that, like that interlude part. I want to get into it. But then I want to show you what actually comes, because you might be surprised here, but the Jesus coming on a white horse to end it, it actually happens. All right? So we're going to talk about it, but it happens in a very unique, different way. So that's what I want to get at today. Now, to get at that, let's talk about what's happening here in this interlude, okay? The phrase he uses here is a phrase from Isaiah 21:19. Now remember, John is on this island of Patmos. He's been exiled there because in many ways he's a subversive threat to the Roman Empire. And John is a Jewish individual, and he loves his Hebrew scriptures. In fact, I encourage you, if you ever want to, just go check out how many allusions and references to the Old Testament that John does in the book of Revelation. Almost like every other thing you read in the book of Revelation, you can trace back to the Old Testament. And this is no exception. John, after the seventh seal or the seventh bowl happens, John takes us to the moment, like the climax, the apex of the story. And he says, fallen is Babylon the Great. This is the final climactic scene. John has been building for this moment. We all know it. We've all seen it. We know what's happening in the first century. We know about Emperor Domitian. We know about the kind of individual he was and the empire he led. And we know what he's done to first century Jesus people, or any person that doesn't stand in line and follow the orders of the empire. And so the question is, as you get to this part of the text, well, I thought we were talking about Rome. Who's Babylon? Why would he say fallen is Babylon the Great? Where did Babylon come from? Here's what John is doing. He's reworking Isaiah 21:9, and he's echoing those prophetic voices. Remember, John is standing in a long line of Hebrew prophets. And Isaiah 21:9 says this, fallen is Babylon, and all images of her gods lie shattered on the ground. Give a little history here. Most of you know this, but in 586 BCE, around the time that Isaiah is writing about, the superpower of the day was not Rome then, it was Babylon. And Babylon came in and they destroyed Jerusalem. And they burned the temple to the ground. And so, what Isaiah is writing about in 21:9 is he's revealing the upcoming and impending fall of this great military superpower, Babylon. Isaiah is critiquing the luxurious living of Babylon. And what Isaiah is trying to communicate to the Israelites is that this luxurious living that Babylon has been expressing themselves in will become remains in ruins. I know you see your city, Jerusalem, in ruins, but I assure you that Babylon, the great Babylon, will look just like Jerusalem when it's all said and done. So, why would Isaiah be teaching this? Because Isaiah is trying to bring some hope and encouragement that in a moment when Israel is being oppressed by these Babylonians, what you find is Isaiah the prophet saying, stay encouraged, stay committed, don't give up. It is a text of inspiration. It's an attempt to feed the souls of the people who are walking through utter chaos in the moment. And Isaiah is trying to lift their spirits, and he's trying to say this: the empire will not last forever. There will come a day where you will be liberated from Babylon. And sure enough, that happened. In 539 BCE, Babylon was conquered by the Persians. And it marks an end to what scholarship calls the Neo-Babylonian Empire. And so what began to happen as time went on is that story became very famous. If you read the Old Testament, I always tell people it's really important to know two things that happen when you read the Old Testament, because by and large, most of the Old Testament is centered around these two things. When the Assyrians came in and conquered Jerusalem, and when the Babylonians came in and conquered Jerusalem. Almost everything you read in the Old Testament is centered around those two historic moments. Now, fast forward, and what happens when you get to the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, these Gospels, what you begin to see is it's no longer about Babylon, because that's past, but now you have a new empire, and it's Rome. And so what began to happen in the early first century, at the time in which Revelation is written, in Jewish tradition, Babylon came to mean Rome after Rome destroyed Jerusalem. And so when John writes this, and he takes this text from Isaiah, and he says, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, John is talking about Rome. Rome is the new Babylon. He's saying everything they've been building up to, it's actually happening. This is it. The empire is crumbling before our very eyes. The question is, what is John saying? I think it's really simple, but I want to get into why this happens, okay? But here's what I think John is saying. Very simple yet profound. John is saying, make no mistake about it, all empires will come to an end. I want us to sit with that for a minute, because we live in an empire. And there are some truths that are true all the way through history. All empires will come to an end. You're like, Pastor, how do you know? I took history. All empires will come to an end. How do you know? Because all empires have come to an end. And the empires that are present in our modern day society will eventually come to an end. Now, you could see that and you could be like, Pastor, it's spring break. It's going to rain today. I'm tired. And I came here to just be lifted. Just like a little inspiration. Just some encouragement. Quite frankly, I just want you to share a story. You know, laughter is good medicine for the soul. Just make me laugh a little bit. Just encourage me. And I show up here and this is the message. This This is, by the way, if you're like, what do you have to say today? It's this right here. All empires will come to an end. And if in case you need to leave early, this empire will also come to an end too. And I know you're here and you're probably like, God, I thought you said you had panic disorders. Yeah, I do. Um, I simultaneously hold my anxiety with this truth. All empires will come to an end. They will. And I want us to sit with that. Now, you could look at that and be like, God, that's hard. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Or you could look at it and be like, that's encouraging. Because, and here's where we're going, something always has to end for something new to begin. That's what John is getting at. Something always has to die for something new to be born. You have to put away with the old in order for the new to emerge. And here's where we're going today. I actually believe we are living in a historic moment in human civilization where lots of things are dying and coming to an end, which means, and this is worth coming for, new things are emerging. And there are things that want to be given birth in our moment right now. And I actually believe Vinings Lake plays a pivotal role in the state of Georgia, Atlanta, Mableton. Because I'm telling you, when the great emergence happens in society, Mableton will be the place it happens. You know what I'm talking about? And I actually think something new is emerging. But listen, you cannot get the cart before the horse. In order for the new to emerge, and I know this, and I know that you know this because it's a pattern of your life, right? You know the pattern. It's the seasonal changes. Right now, my God, are you loving this as much as I am? Now, don't get me wrong. I did a wedding this weekend. Martin's on our board. And his family, you probably know his family, they all sit together, and there's like 40 of them. They're half the church, by the way. And Martin and his family have been around Vinings Lake since we started Vinings Lake. So not many people can say that. There's like a handful of folks that are still in this room who knows everything about this space, that have been here since the beginning. And we look at each other every now and then like, oh, look. And sometimes I look at me like, look at all these new people. I'm like, I know, don't tell them. Shh. All right. And it's amazing because they've seen it go down. They've seen it go down, and they've seen it come back up. And what's amazing, though, is like you see it right now. So his daughter got married, Sitlali. Y'all know Sitlali. She spoke here a couple of times. And check it out. Sitlali also, I don't know if you know this, but she is a graduate of Candler School of Theology at Emory University. Do you know this? So immediately, it's full respect. You know what I'm talking about? Like, she graduated before I did, all right? And so we married her last night or yesterday in Chatsworth. So it was like up in North Georgia, behind this mountain. But I say it was an outside wedding. And it was like 3 o'clock in the day, and I had a full suit on. It was like 83 degrees, and that sun was hitting right here. And literally, I'm like looking around, I'm like, it was absolutely stunning and beautiful. At the same time, I could not see the people on the back row of the wedding because there was this yellow haze between me and the people. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like, oh, isn't this beautiful? And we're all just breathing in all of this pollen, right? So it's a love-hate, but check it out. I'm literally there, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, my God, here's what you can see right now. Tell me if you've experienced this. Like my own yard, all the plants are now turning colors. You know what I'm talking about? Like I'm seeing purple and pink and the little greens coming up out of the ground, and the trees are starting to have like green leaves, and I'm like, oh my God, it's happening, right? Like we just went, all right, it's baked into the system. We went from death to some new life emerging. This is the season that we are in. So when I say all empires come to an end, yeah, you could look at that and be like, oh, that's sad, but it's only sad for those who are benefiting from the empire. The reality is we can hold all these tensions. So yes, there is a part of me that mourns, oh man, my heart breaks for an empire coming to an end. Also, there is a part of me that recognizes that as empires come to an end, everyone at some level is affected by the end of that empire. So yeah, there are people I love That I'm like, God, I don't want anyone to feel pain. I don't want anyone to feel suffering. I don't want anyone to struggle on where to buy food. I don't want to walk through that. Simultaneously, I'm also fully aware that it's baked into our seasons. It's baked into our skin. If you knew how many cells died just in the last 24 hours in your body, you would know you are a brand new human this morning. So death and life, it's everywhere around us. You know what you're going to do today? You're going to go eat lunch. Something had to die for you to have life. No, I know. There's a couple people in here who are like, that's why I'm a vegetarian. I do not eat meat. I got news for you. I don't know how to tell you this. You also murdered a plant. You are not a pacifist. Listen, if you don't believe me, plants are just as alive as animals are. Just look in the telescope and you'll see that baby's kicking with life, all right? So the moment you took that, whatever that is, that cauliflower was fully alive, all right? And now you got it in a taco and you think you're better than everyone, all right? But I got news for you. Your hands are as bloody as the meat eater, all right? It's personal. Don't worry about it. It's fine, all right? I'm working it out in therapy. It's all good. But here's what John is getting at. All empires will come to an end because everything comes to an end. Nothing lasts forever, people. And isn't that kind of what's magical about all of this? It's what keeps me going. I keep gathering here and I'm looking out at you people and I'm like, does it not sometimes feel like you're on a ticking clock? Does anyone else, and maybe I know I overthink it, but sometimes I'll just wake up and my very first thought, this may frighten some of you, is I wonder if today's the day that's my last day. Does anyone ever do that? Some of you are like, I don't think about it at all. Almost every morning I wake up, I'm like, what if today was it? I spend my whole life wondering about that last day and how it's going to be. And there's a part of me, because I'm an anxious person, like, please don't make it painful. You know what I'm talking about? Like, whatever it is. And no one knows, and that's the great mystery of it. There's also an excitement to it. Like, here's the thing about it, is I'm sad because I wouldn't want to leave. Because when you think about your own death, you're like, I don't want to leave. This is good. Some days I'm like, man, whoever invented all this, I mean, that's pretty awesome. Then some days I'm like, whoever invented all this, disgusting. Because some days it's like, this is so beautiful. And some days like, is this purgatory? Torture? Are we in purgatory right now and we're not even fully aware of it? Are we in this in-between liminal space where I'm like, why are we suffering, right? But I think about it, and I think about one day will be my last. And here's what's wild about it. It's like roulette. No one has a clue in here. No one has a clue. I could be talking to you right now, and this could be it. That's crazy to me. And then here's what's even more bizarre. There's just the thing just spins on. You'll give like a couple hours. You have a little funeral service. It just spins on. But here's what's wild. It all ends, so it will end. But then here's what's crazy about it. If we just look at like cells, seasons, what's baked into what we've already experienced, then we have enough evidence to know that apparently when this ends, something new will emerge and begin. And here's what's wild about it. No one has a clue of what that is. Yeah. I know we have like the scriptures and stuff, and we've talked about the afterlife, and everyone has speculation. And there's even been some people that have these stories about they went there and came back. You know what I mean? Who knows? No one knows. But that mystery, there's something really exciting. There's something terrifying about it, but there's also something really exciting like no one even knows. But what we do know is that eventually, like everyone, people will be possibly here. Maybe even if we keep this building up like in good health, maybe there'll be someone else standing here eventually. You know, there have been people stood here before I got here, right? We weren't here, we were over there. And there was a stage there, and those two doors were where the choir people came out. Who knew? A choir. And then I'm fairly certain they weren't teaching the same thing I was. But they were here. And they were doing it. And I know a little bit of the history. I know a little bit of the 1955, 1964 is when this building was built. I know a little bit. But here's the thing. You were like, I don't know who. Long before that, check this out. I don't know if you know this, but Native Americans were here. And then we just came in and took it all over. I know. Isn't it crazy? And it's like that's eventually that's how it works for all of us. And so we're not here, then we're here. Everything is impermanent. Everything dies. This is what John is saying. So you can look at it and you can be discouraged, but you can also look at it going, aren't you kind of glad? Can we just pause here? I'm not trying to find silver lining, but aren't you grateful that everything comes to an end? Because I don't have to tell you this. If you were to tell me in the situation that we're living in America right now, it was going to last forever, I'm not okay with that. I am grateful that things come to an end. There's a level that keeps me getting up in the morning going, I'm going to do it again today. Why? Because it may be the last day. And I think that's an okay motivation. There are sometimes I get up, I'm like, again today? But then I'm like, yep, because today could be it. And I spend most of my time walking around going, I wonder if it will be the last. And there's an energy there because I'm like, it could be. So when I have my conversation with you, I often think about that. What would I want to say if this was the last thing I was going to say to them? If this was the last look they were going to get from me, what would that look be? Would it be one of anger? Would it be one of happiness? Would it be a smile? What would it be? I like to think it'd be a smile. I like to think right before I die, Katie looks at me and she's like, oh, this is about to get good, isn't it? I'm like, it is. I'm out. Gone. You know what I mean? Like, I'll catch you up there, out there, in there. I don't know. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, I know we've built our narratives like up or down or whatever. You know what I mean? But like the idea is it's all speculation. But this is what John is getting at. He was like, yeah. So, yeah. And by the way, we're nuanced enough we can hold both. So, yeah, you kind of mourn. Change requires grief. This is why there is good grief. Your kid's graduating this year. Or they went off to prom. You're like, it's kind of sad. Why is that sad to me? That's grief. That's good grief. It's change. All change requires grief. Simultaneously, you're like, oh, thank God they graduated soon. They'll be paying their own bills. Get out of here. You know what I mean? Like you hold, but yeah, that's how so you hold both. So yeah, all empires will come to an end. That's kind of sad because maybe, we don't know, but infused within that might be some unpleasant feeling. But at the same time, you're like, oh, thank God all empires come to an end because there's been some really bad ones. In fact, when you use the word empire, I can't really point to a good one. And I think this is what John is getting at. He's saying all empires will come to an end. And it's essentially what he's saying is empires, and here's why this is so powerful. Empires are designed to make you feel weak in the face of their omnipotence. Empires want you to feel disempowered. They want you to feel that you do not come close to comparing to the power that the empire itself has. And it's as if John is just reminding us Rome is not the great eternal power it claims to be. Rome is not all powerful. Emperors, including Domitian, and empires are disposable. They will come and they will go. And it's as if he's taking another step going, and I would add that is also true of evil itself. Empires will end and evil will cease to exist one day. I do believe he's infusing some hope into this first century audience. Remember, he's using apocalyptic literature here to describe this battle, this cosmic battle between good and evil. And evil and good are incarnated into the heads of this beast. And it's as if John is trying to breathe some sense of apocalyptic hope. And the question is, well, Cody, how do you know all empires will end? And one example we can give you is because of 576 Common Era. The Roman Empire collapsed. The Roman Empire faded. And today, in April of 2025, in the United States of America, the Roman Empire is long gone. The imperial cult that John has been talking to us about has faded. Not just Domitian, but all the Caesars have died. They're gone. Augustus, gone. Julius, gone. Still have his salad. He's gone. God, I love that joke so much. Wasn't in my notes, but I just keep loving it. It brings me joy. That's all that matters. The economy of the Roman Empire has transitioned many times over since the first century. Yeah. It's ended. We can look at it. It's facts. No one would have ever imagined. If you had told people in the first century there will come a day when the Roman Empire will be no more, they'd be like, okay. And maybe what John is doing exactly what I'm doing to you. He took an older empire, Babylon, to use as an example to the current situation that they're in the first century. But I know you can't, I know you think the Roman Empire is always going to have their boot on your neck. And I know you think they're going to rule and reign. And I know you think there is no justice for those who just seem to be doing evil in the world in all their power. And it's as if John, again, he's exiled from the Roman Empire. And he's just like, let me introduce you to Babylon. Have you forgotten about them? I know Babylon. Everybody in the first century is like, oh God, we can't stand Babylon because Babylon destroyed our temple. They took out our people. And it wasn't just we can't stand them. I mean, they lost family members to Babylon. This is pain. This is heartache. And John is taking that and he's using an example to say, there was a time where your ancestors did not believe Babylon could ever be defeated. But I want you to know Babylon ended. And in the same way Babylon collapsed, so I want you to know the Roman Empire will have its last day. And I believe this is a good thing. It's a good thing. Because hear me, some things need to end. And in an empire that is the incarnation and the epitome of the 7 deadly sins, it needs to end. An empire that's filled with pride, greed, envy, wrath, lust, gluttony, sloth. Those need to end. I'll go a step further. Misogyny, patriarchy, homophobia, xenophobia, racism, bigotry, corruption, economic injustice. They must come to an end. And the misogyny and the patriarchy and the homophobia and the xenophobia and the racism and the bigotry and the corruption and the economic injustice doesn't just need to end, it will end, and it needs to go back to the hell in which it came from. And I believe this is what John is telling us. That there are some things that need to end. American Christianity in its religious form in this moment needs to die. And so when I hear people talking to me about how churches are emptying, I'm just smiling. They're like, why are you so encouraged by that? You're a pastor. Because I'm like, because the thing needs to die. And then I meet pastors who are trying to tape up and trying to make sure it lasts as long as it can. And so we have conferences after conferences after conferences of people that are trying to reinvent. And they're trying to polish it up. And they're trying to patch it up. And I'm like, people, let's not patch it up. Let's not try to reinvent it. Let's just bite a casket. Let's dig a hole. Why are we resisting the flow, the evolutionary flow of the universe? Instead of resisting and pushing against it, let's just get in line with it. Let's dig a hole and let's put all of the patriarchy, all of the homophobia, all of the racism, all of it that's embedded within our own government, that's embedded within the leaders of our government, and that's embedded within the leaders of our religious organizations around the world. And let's just bury it all and let the thing die. And then we mourn and we celebrate. Because as the thing dies, we have now given space for something new to emerge. Now the question is, how does it happen? According to John, how does the empire end? I want you to see how John plays this, okay? And then we'll get to our world. You're like, we're not at our world yet? We're going to get there. So the question is, what happens? Okay, so what I just read to you was Revelation chapter 18. Fallen is the Roman Empire, Babylon the Great. It's finally the climax. Like, we've been waiting for this. The first century readers are like, tell us more, John. We've been waiting for this. Yes, it's fallen. It's collapsed. All right. But here's the thing. The question is, well, how did it happen? Like actually, how did it happen? Now, we're not in the realm of history here. I need you to understand that, all right? Because there might be some historians in here who are like, well, technically, Rome didn't, when you got to technically, you lost me. All right, so it's all good. I get that. John is not, this isn't history. And by the way, that's actually helpful for all of us. Remember, the Bible is not a history book, okay? Oh my God, we've gotten ourselves into some pretty rough stuff talking about Genesis being the start of how we all got here. That you know that's not, we've dealt with Genesis before, but that's true for all the Bible. The Bible is never intended to be a history book, okay? You're trying to read science fiction as history, and that will get you to a lot of trouble, all right? You don't watch Back to the Future and be like, no, it really happened. Do you know what I'm saying? That genre, I'm saying genre is really important. Just know it's sci-fi, right? Again, as you're reading this, just know it's apocalyptic literature, and that's really important. So John's not writing history here. This is a sci-fi that he's using, right? Now, that said, John says, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. So he calls for the end of Rome. It's already moved into fallen is Babylon the Great. It's over. Then you get to 19, and you don't have mourning. You have a whole hymn in Revelation 19 of the first century readers celebrating the fall of the Roman Empire. Celebrating the fall of Domitian. I know. I read that and I was like, I don't know. Shouldn't they kind of mourn? And John's like, no, let's put celebrating here. So they celebrate it. But then it's like the moment you've been waiting for. Okay, well, how did it happen in Revelation? Like, how did the thing go down? And it's the moment, the futurists who read this, Left Behind theology, man, they love this part. They love this part. But they don't know what to do with the second part, which is what I love. How did the empire go down? I'll give you a clue here. John says it was self-destructive. Listen to that, okay? By the way, evil is always self-destructive. Empires destroy themselves. One writer said it like this: great civilizations are not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself from within. You see it in John's writing. 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls. Right in the midst of that, what do you see? You see all of this violence, all of this pain, all of this heartache. It's the parts that we don't want to read about Revelation. What is he saying? It is a slow crumbling from the inside out of the empire. And this is what John is getting at. And so he plays up this moment. And I want you to notice the image he gives us. This is Revelation 19, verse 11. Then I saw heaven open, and there was a white horse. Exclamation point. Let's pause here. Come on, tell me that's not the moment you've been waiting for, because it is for me. And in the first century, you know, they were like, you gave us a slain lamb at first. Like, he walked out, like, what's he going to do? A slain lamb? Like, I don't want that. Don't give me that. Like, give me I want a man to show up on a white horse, and I want him to have weapons, and I want him to destroy my enemies in front of me. That's what I want. That is what I want. Because for most of us, we'd say that's called justice. And I would just say to you, I feel that. I do. I feel that. There are people in my headspace right now where, quite frankly, nothing would thrill me more than to watch Almighty God come back and judge them in front of the entire country. And all of us stand around going, how's that working for you? Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not denying the fact that that is also in me. There is a part of me that would thoroughly enjoy that. The only part of me that wouldn't thoroughly enjoy that is I know if that person stands before it, then my turn is coming. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the hard part. We're going to get there next week. John calls it the great white throne judgment. Some of you have been asking about that. Cody, do you believe there's like a judgment day coming? We're going to talk about it next week. That's just my hook. You got to come. All right? But here's what happens. The white horse shows up. And then John goes into detail. Its rider is called Faithful and True. And in righteousness, he judges and wages war. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Rambo has come. All right, verse 15. From his mouth, now here it is. Here's the thing to listen to, all right? John's intentional here. Remember, John is showing you the kingdom of God is not an imitation of the kingdom of Rome. The way God does stuff in the world does not mimic the way Rome does stuff in the world. Rome uses force, intimidation, and violence, and God does not take part in that. And so, check it out. These words matter. So you have the white horse coming. Just when you think, oh, here it comes. He's coming. I can't wait. Finally, he's going to just start lobbing off some heads. Check it out. Verse 15. From his mouth comes a sharp sword, with which to strike down the nations. And he will rule them with a scepter of iron. He will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God the Almighty. Futurists love this moment because they believe this is the moment where all the violence is justified. But I would argue, as someone who reads the text through a Jesus hermeneutic, and if you don't know what that is, someone who reads the text through the lens of what Jesus teaches on the Sermon on the Mount, I would argue that the image we're giving here is very clear. John did not say Jesus comes back on a white horse with a sword in his hand. John specifically says that he comes back on a white horse with a sword coming out of his mouth. Someone please explain literally how that happens. This isn't David Copperfield magic stuff. Like, what is John getting at? If you know anything about the Old Testament, even the New Testament, you know this phrase. In the book of Hebrews, the writer talks about the idea of the words of God being sharper than a two-edged sword. And it flows out of the mouth. It's as if John is giving us the insight of all insights. Jesus does not come back with an actual literal sword in his hand, negating everything he taught in the Sermon on the Mount. That would be foolish. Could you imagine? Jesus showed up and he's like, listen, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you, turn the other cheek, but it doesn't apply to me. Or, all that's just for then, but when the end comes, don't worry about it. Just get rid of all of that stuff I taught you because it's on. No, Jesus is not coming back to negate everything he taught. That is not what the heart of God is. That is not the character of God. That is not the essence of God. And what you see again is that John is giving the first century audience insight into how the empire actually crumbles from within. It crumbles from within because you cannot continually participate in the sins the empire was committing and it not have self-replication back to you. And it eventually begins to crumble. And then you have the prophets from the outside and the inside. And what do? They show up on horses with a sword coming out of their mouth. What is this a reference to? This, my friends, is a reference to truth. The idea is words of truth that are sharp, that cut right out of the mouth when you speak. Have you ever felt that before? My God, I felt it this week. First of all, I have felt it before on two sides. Has anyone ever told you the truth you need to hear, but the truth you hated to hear? Boy, that ain't fun. Man, my body cringes a little bit. You know what I'm talking about? Someone's like, hey, we need to have a meeting. God, I hate, my nervous system. Anytime he's like, hey, we need to meet. And I'm like, can you not hurt my anxiety worse than it already is? You know what I mean? Like, anytime I hear somebody, and I already know it's going to hang over my head for the next 4 days until we meet, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's meet now. Do you know what I'm talking about? Let's just get it over with. What's the thing? What's the thing? But I've had people I've had people have to tell me things, want to tell me things. And this is what I love. I do my best to surround myself around people who have the green light to tell me the truth about myself that sometimes I don't want to see. I encourage you to have your people. Seriously, get your people. It's important. It's really important because it's very dangerous for you to fly and not have any system of people around you that can actually hold some sense of accountability to you. What you'll do is you'll find yourself in a lot of the places that our current administration is. No checks and balances. And that leads to arrogance and pride. And here's what really amazing. You're really good, so don't forget this, because I'm really good too, so I know how this works. Because some of you sit around here like, oh yeah, I got 5 people, but you and I both know those 5 people are all yes people. Because we can trick ourselves and go, I have an accountability group, but they know they're always going to say yes to me. And if they don't say yes to me, they'll figure out a way to make sure I'm justified in what I'm doing. I don't want those type of people. I do have 1 or 2. I do like them. Sometimes they're like, I do. Sometimes they're like, keep going, go further. But then I'll have some in my life. And by the way, they listen to all these sermons. They do. This is why some people send me emails all the time. I don't read most of them. Some of them I do. Partly because I mean this out of love, but your opinion doesn't matter to me. That's a freeing place to be. So someone be like, hey, I want to help you here. I'm like, oh, thanks for that, but I don't really value that. And it's not because you're not a valuable person. It's just because I don't know you. And I don't know your intentions. And I don't know what you're trying to do and what you're not trying to do. I don't even know where you're coming from. I don't know you. And quite frankly, I don't really trust you. So I get my feedback from a group of people that, here's the thing, they have my best interest in mind. And I've never doubted that. And I'm telling you, these people can cut me with a sword. But check it out, it's the sword of healing. Do you know what I'm talking about? And yeah, sometimes I have to tuck my tail and be like, I need to sit on that one because, man, there is some you've heard this phrase? There's some serious truth in what they just said. But have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen it cut the other way too? Yeah. I'm like most of you. This week, I watched Cory Booker give a speech for 25 hours. That's like that's marathon status. You have to be like an ultra athlete to do. And also, to be real with you, it really challenged me because I thought, well, how long could I speak if I? You know it did. You know that was the first. You know that was the first thing that came to my mind. Katie was like, he spoke for 25 hours. I'm like, is that a challenge? Because we could start at Revelation 1. And I was like, what if we did 24 hours of Revelation? And Katie was like, yeah, why don't you do that by yourself in your room? Lock the door. She just passed the bedroom. And I'd be like, there was a beast with 7 heads. But I obviously didn't watch all of it. I just watched parts of it. And the parts that I watched moved me. It was like, here's a man who's walking right into the heart of the beast. And quite frankly, in many ways, it was very, and I use this word a lot, but it was very prophetic. It was very apocalyptic literature-ish. And he spoke truth. And here's the thing. It isn't easy to hear. But I need you to know, like, that's how it works, and that's what John is telling us. Yes, keep speaking the truth. This is how it works. What is John doing? He's speaking the truth about empire. He's exposing it, which is, as you shed light on it, it creates the collapse. That is why we're going through the book of Revelation right now in the heart of the American empire. For that very reason. It all comes down to this idea I'm telling you right now. Because I believe the more of us begin to expose it for what it is, and the more we chase after and value and honor truth, the more fake news begins to be exposed. And the more fake news begins to be exposed, the more you shed light on evil itself, the more it begins to dissipate and crumble. It is important, it is vital for the future of our own kids' lives that we not stay silent in a time like this. And yes, I'm fully aware, but this is why we've stepped into this conversation. This is why I keep naming names. This is why I keep exposing Donald Trump. It's for a reason, because I do not want my nephews and nieces and their kids to look back on, he really didn't say a lot during that pivotal time. No, we must keep speaking. The sword must come out of the mouth. The truth must be shared, even and especially when the truth that we need to hear the most is the truth that we hate the most. Yeah. And this is what John is showing us. And so he's saying when the sword comes out of the mouth as a reference to truth, truth ultimately prevails. It's interesting, violence doesn't end the empire. It's truth that ends the empire by exposing it for what it actually is. And let me give you a little bit of clue here for history too, so you know. Truth not only prevailed, it prevailed greatly because Domitian, the emperor at the time of this writing, was killed sometime in the late 1st century. And what happened when Domitian was killed, check this out. Over the course of history, what you found was that the Roman Senate began to understand the truth about this authoritarian leader. And the truth prevailed. And the truth prevailed so much so that as history began to look back at this authoritarian leader, they decided to make some changes. And here's what they did. The Roman Senate would go out and they chiseled the name of Domitian from all the inscriptions that he had. They removed Domitian's face from coins, paintings. They destroyed statues of Domitian. And then those statues that they could not destroy, you know what they did? They had either his head replaced with another head, or they left his statue head and they scrubbed out the details of his face. Because history saw it for what it is. History saw him as a tyrant. And they removed as many images as they could from public spaces across the empire. And that's why to date, it's very hard to find archaeological evidence for a lot of what John is writing about, talking about, and even Domitian himself, because the Roman Empire, let's forget about that atrocity in our history. And so there's parts of people that are like, no, let's not forget about it, but let's just make sure we don't worship this emperor. Yeah. So I mentioned all that to you, and I'll just close here. Cody, what do you think's happening right now? I was very encouraged this week. So in so many ways inspired, uplifted. I hope you feel that today. I do. I hope you feel on this rainy Sunday. I hope you feel inspired. I hope you feel an extra sense of inspiration as you do your work in the world. I felt that this week. Here's what I believe. And I think this is true, and I want you to hang with me, and then we're done, okay? I've said this before, but I believe we're living in what I am talking about as the great upheaval. That's just the best phrase I've got for it, the great upheaval. And here's what I mean. When I say I think we're living in the great upheaval, I'm talking about a reference of stages of consciousness here. You all know I nerd out on stuff like that, spiral dynamics, things like that. There is a level between postmodernity and integral theory, okay? Now, if you're like, okay, you lost me, what is all this? All right, all of us see the world in a particular way. But what historians are saying is that as they look at human civilization, and what theorists are saying is that they believe our country is in this space of postmodernity, but that what's happening right now is we're taking a giant evolutionary leap. I'm talking about consciousness into what they call integral. But in order to get to integral, you have to leave one stage of consciousness to get to a new stage of consciousness. And what theorists say is that we could very well be in one of those leaps right this second as a nation. And that is so thrilling to me. But that's also so terrifying to me. Because what that means is one stage needs, like there needs to be some disruption in the current stage in order to move us, push us, motivate us, force us into new stages. And the question is, how do we move to new stages? Disruption. disruption. This is why I'm calling it the great upheaval. So if you're here and you're like, feels a little chaotic, welcome to the chaos. Disruptions, welcome to the disruption. Bewilderment, those are some good words. Tension, to say the least. Conflict, you feel that? I can't tell you how many families I know that are in conflict right now. I can't tell you how many I know. Mom's not speaking to daughters, sons not speaking to fathers. I've seen grandparents choose Trump over their own kids. That's why it's like, that might be a bit cultish. Like unbelievable. And I just remind everyone that Trump's not coming to your funeral. And if you're not careful, I mean this is a threat, but just hear me well when I say this. You will die alone, clinging to your flag and your party. And I just want to say, at what cost? And conflict, I mean, I can't tell you how many families I've seen just completely not speaking to each other, using boundaries, disagreement, disillusionment, confusion. And when I say the great upheaval, I'm not talking about just politics. I know some people are always talking about, I'm talking about this is like worldwide. We're just experiencing a certain level of it here in the U.S. I'm talking about politics, war, economics, truth, authority, medicine, education, ideas, technology, arrangements, hierarchies. They're all being disrupted right now. And so if you're like, my nervous system seems to be out of order, it should be. That's totally normal. We're not living in a normal time right now. We're in a liminal space. Things are being disrupted. Chaos is happening. And here's the thing. There are lots of people doing everything they can to hold on to the particular arrangement that they've had. You see it, right? And they're grabbing and they're clawing and they're screaming and they're fighting because they want to hold on to everything they can to this arrangement. Because here's the thing about empires that you need to know. Empires are always interested in self-preservation. And why are they interested in self-preservation? Because if you'll notice the people that are hanging on to it, notice the people who are hanging on to it, notice their social intersection, and notice they have a lot in common. And notice this, the people that want self-preservation of an empire are the people that are benefiting from the arrangement that it is. And so here's what I believe is happening. I'm going to give this to you, and then we're out of here, and we're all going to enjoy our spring break. But here it is. We're holding on. And there are people that are trying to hold on to this arrangement. And here's what I want to say. Friends that are trying to hold on, we are in something larger than you could ever imagine. We are in an evolutionary leap of society. And what I will say to you is, there is no reason for you to hang on. My invitation for you is to let go. Let it go, because here's what I want to tell you. If you hold on, you will hold on to it all the way down to the pits of hell itself. And the reason I say that to you is because here's what I know about history and here's what I know about evolution. Evolution is undefeated. Evolution is undefeated. No one in history has ever defeated evolution. You know how evolution happens? One funeral at a time. So you can spend the remainder of your days grabbing hold, trying to patch it up, make sure it doesn't change. And I'm telling you, you will take that to your grave, because the evolutionary flow of the universe will not be stumped by any political party. It's not even on a comparison level. Evolution doesn't even play this game. Evolution just does what evolution does. It has an omega point. It's headed somewhere, and nobody's getting in its way. So, yeah. Right now we're living in a time where, well, I don't know about all this, what's happening. And there's a part of me like, yep, we speak our truth. But also, check it out. When you feel discouraged, just get yourself lined up with the evolutionary flow. Then you don't have to use so much energy. It just pushes you. And here's the thing. It's undefeated. No one's stopping it. Now, all of that said, it kind of feels like a death, Cody. I know. Maybe the reason it feels like a death is because it is. Maybe the American empire is, God, I know, maybe we're in a death right now. Could it be? What if what we're seeing right now is the brutal and bloody kicking and screaming of something old, tired, and past that's collapsing before our very eyes so that something new can emerge? And so I would say this to you, friends. Maybe what John is telling us is also exactly what we're living in, and I hope it inspires you. These are not normal times, people. But if it brings you some sense of hope and some sense of inspiration, this is it. Something has to end for something new to begin. Something has to die for something new to be birthed. And I believe the old way of arranging ourselves as a society in the American culture is coming to an end. And I believe we are in the final days of its kicking and screaming and arguing because it's trying so hard to hold on. And I believe that the old way of arranging ourselves is coming to an end. And I believe we are making room for something new to emerge. In John's world in the first century, he said it's the collapse of the, quote, great city, unquote, Roman Empire. And in its collapse of the great city, it makes room for the rise of what he calls the, quote, holy city, unquote, Jerusalem. And so what you see is a pivotal moment in this story where you have the end of the Roman Empire and the beginning of this holy city where John says, I saw a new heaven, a new earth, and a new city emerge from the ashes of the empire. And so I say to you, keep speaking the truth, people. Keep that sword in your mouth sharpened. Keep sharing it. Keep doing it. What I saw this week of people protesting all around the world lifted my soul. Keep hanging on, friends. I mean this. We are in a historic moment as a human species. And Mableton might just very well be playing a role in something larger than you and I ever imagined.